in a few minutes. Another week in the ongoing saga on the planet Asylum that we live in. Yes, we're all under siege. That's a fact. Doesn't matter whether people ignore it. Not just from the military-industrial corporate complex, but from ourselves as well. Because things couldn't get this bad if the vast majority didn't participate in the insanity. If the vast majority weren't willing participants in the insanity. Had so many people try to tell me that there's no burden of guilt or fault on populations. It's all the fault of those in power. How can that be? How did those in power get in power? Who put them in power? Who allowed them to stay in power? And this comes because a whole lot of people, if they're given enough distractions, enough personal pursuits of pleasure, don't really care who's in power or what they do with that power, so long as they can, again, go about their personal pursuit of pleasure. That's a sad state of affairs, and we're all about to reap the repercussions from that kind of mindset. And again, the epitome of out-of-control power is the fact that we have governments around the globe choosing to play God with the weather. Really, that's a core issue. As I've stated in many other shows, we'll deal with that a lot, because the bottom line is if we don't take care of that, not much else is going to matter for a whole lot longer. And that's a simple fact. And truly, in regard to that issue, and it's a good example for everything I just went over, isn't it astounding that something of such magnitude can go on over the heads of populations around the globe every single day, and so few people look up, let alone question what in the world is going on above us? It's truly astounding. As I've said many times, it doesn't matter if people don't believe this, doesn't matter if they bought into the group think, conspiracy theory, programming, denial. It doesn't matter. The reality is the same. Repercussions will be the same. I often make myself view mainstream media just to keep abreast of what the corporate criminal cabal is up to. What are they doing? And this corporate criminal cabal is partners with their own government and governments around the globe. They're all one and the same. We don't have countries with governments. We have governments with countries. Understand the difference. There's a big difference. And what are they feeding the population on mainstream media? It's important to see that. I know a lot of people who refuse to watch any TV. Well, I understand that to a degree, but then how do you know what your neighbor, relative, what they're thinking and what because of what they're viewing? How do you know that? How do you have some insight into what their conclusions are if you don't at least once in a while take a look at where they're getting their information? So when one considers the endless train of total idiocracy that's broadcast over the airways, it's hard not to wonder, for example, what some intelligent form of life would think if the human race was observed. The sky matches virtually all geoengineering patents. The fact that hundreds of lab tests taken from all over the globe match exactly the ingredients stated in geoengineering patents as primary elements.
But not very much. And there's certainly uncertainty about how bad those effects will be, but they will be extremely bad.
One of the most hardy brush forms known, the manzanita, and it looks like it's been hit with insecticide. And we're seeing this throughout the ecosystem. And there's virtually no growth, and we see whole plants, whole mature plants, 50, 60, 70-year-old, almost trees die out for no reason whatsoever that we can find other than the contaminated soils. So if it's in the rain, it's in the soil. And now we see incredibly hardy organisms dying for no other cause that we can find other than the contamination in our rain from these aerosol operations.
And so you get ecosystem collapses.
And if you control the weather, you're going to control the planet. It's that simple.
Since the release of What in the World Are They Spraying, millions of people have woken up to these crimes against nature and humanity.
There is a line of research on what's called geoengineering. The climate getting worse means that many years their crops won't grow. There'll be too much rain, not enough rain, Things will change in ways that their fragile environment simply can't support.
That Bill Gates invests in geoengineering and he profits from the destruction through his investment in Monsanto. Monsanto is coming in and they're saying, we have a solution for your problems.